Have you ever felt like the script you're following doesn't quite fit anymore? Then you're in the right place. I'm Maricella Herrera, and I started Should I Just Quit My Job after walking away from a job I thought defined me. Forget the highlight reels. Here we talk about the messy middle, the doubts, the detours, and the chaos that come with rethinking who we are. Because the truth is, it was never just about quitting a job. It was about questioning everything I thought I knew. Hi, everyone. Happy New Year. This is Should I Just Quit My Job? And I'm Maricella Herrera. Thanks for joining me. And I know it's the end of January, so saying Happy New Year might feel like it's a little late for that. But I always tend to think of the start of my year as later than January 1st, because I'm usually gone for long periods of time during the holidays. I didn't come back to New York until a couple of weeks ago. And then after coming back, I had to slowly try to bring myself back to a routine. Because when you've been gone for a really long time, when your life has been like on pause, so to speak, it's hard to get back into it. And my life was really paused. Like for the time I was away, my life was just hanging out with my niece and my nephew, and it was awesome. I had a lot of fun. I love those kids, and I miss them very, very much. So when I'm with them, they're my whole focus. And it's almost like I don't know, like a hangover, I guess. I don't even know how to explain it, but like the whole idea of coming back to New York and feeling the pressure of like, I have to do stuff because I've been gone, but at the same time, feeling zero motivation to do it and feeling really tired and feeling all the feels for both what I had, but also what I left behind. There's a lot of emotions that I probably should write something about or create a minisode about. And that was what I was expecting myself to do. I thought I was going to do a minisode and talk about coming back, talk about my vacation, talk about all these things. But y'all, I could not, for the life of me, get myself to start. The last 2 weeks, I've felt this just lack of motivation that has been so deep. It was almost like apathy. Like I didn't want to do anything. I didn't feel like starting anything. And I didn't start school until this week. So I don't know, I couldn't. And I was talking to a friend of mine who kept being, you need to start to get momentum. Like you need some motion for it to really kick off. And before I left in December, I was actually really pumped about ideas and about projects and about things I was doing. So it was almost sad that I felt like this lack of motivation. So I was dealing with both that sadness too. Like I had lost something, which I guess I had. But she was right. You need some motion to build that momentum. So I think starting school helped. And like I started doing little things that would get me inspired again. And here I am. I was editing. I was like, I really love this. Like I did start getting that spark back. So I'm excited now. And I think I picked the right interview to start with because the person who I talked to, Denis Keane, who you're going to meet in a moment, is completely opposite from the whole unmotivated state that I was in. He's someone who does a lot. He can't be really still. He needs that constant, like, doing many things, doing many interesting things. He's an entrepreneur, an investor, advisor. He started his entrepreneurial journey in the restaurant business, which is what kind of led me to want to talk to him. He's a friend of a friend, and I knew from her about, like, him having owned this like massive nightclub in the Lower East Side years ago, and like started it when the Lower East Side wasn't even the Lower East Side, like back before it gentrified, back before everything. He's just really cool. It's really interesting to listen to how the lessons that he learned from that industry, from those times, then informed a lot and transferred into the skills he took to all the other things he's done. His last gig, I would say, was being the CEO of an AI technology company. So very interesting background. Anyway, I'm not doing it justice. I'm just excited to tell you about it. I'm just excited to be back now. And I missed this feeling. I really missed this feeling. So thanks for that. Okay, I'm going to go now. And I'm going to let you go listen to the conversation I had with Denis. Thanks again for listening. I'm back. You can expect me in your podcast apps every other week this year. I think it's what works the best right now for me as I'm trying to do and explore a lot of other ideas and projects. But I'm not going anywhere. So happy to be back. So happy to be able to continue to do this work. I would love to hear from you. You can leave comments. It would be awesome to know feedback, but also just send me a note. quitmyjobpod@gmail.com. Anyway, I hope your year is off to a great start. Thank you for taking precious time out of your day to listen to this. Sending you all lots of love. And now here's my conversation with Denis. If I met you at a party, what's the one story you tell that you feel showcases who you are?
That's a tough one. Okay, I don't know. There's so much difference in a person, right? Like parts of me thinks I'm funny. Parts of me thinks I'm pretty serious. Parts of me thinks I'm a good entrepreneur. Parts of me questions whether I'm a good entrepreneur. I love working with people, but at times I can really hate people. So it's a really,
I feel that.
Yeah. So sometimes I'm just like, I hate everybody. And I really feel that. And then other times but then when I'm working with people, I love the people I work with, and I always want to get the best out of them. So I love working with people, but I don't like people. So if that makes any kind of sense.
It makes a lot of sense. I actually feel that way a lot of the time.
Okay.
So that to me resonates. You can love people, but also hate them at the same time.
Yep.
Okay, that was not a fair question. I know it was a hard one. So I'm going to go back to just my normal, but I'm trying new things in the podcast.
Yeah, sure. Why not?
But my first question always is, what did you want to be when you were growing up?
So I actually had no idea. I mean, I knew what I didn't want to be.
What was that?
Okay, because when I was young, I had bright red hair, big freckles. I was skinny and lanky, and I was terrified I was going to grow up to be Howdy Doody. So that was my big fear as a kid. Now, I probably really dated myself there. So anybody in your audience who wants to look up Howdy Doody, you'll get to see how I looked when I was young. But then all like the typical boy things. I wanted to play hockey for the New York Rangers, but I couldn't skate, so I kind of made it a little difficult. But even like up through college, I really had absolutely no idea what I wanted to do. I went to business school at Villanova because I was thinking business is broad and I'll do something in business. So I was kind of like leaving my options open. And even when I was graduating, got different job offers, and I got an job offer from Procter & Gamble. And my thought process wasn't like, oh, this is my dream job. This is my dream company. It was just like, P&G's a good company. They're reputable. I should probably take that one. So I kind of just like fell into starting a job because I needed to make money. So I really had no direct path of anything I knew I wanted to do. So
it was more about security at that point.
Yeah, I think it was a lot of it too was more about this is what I do at this stage of my life. You know what I mean? Because I was always kind of a reasonably well-behaved. My parents didn't get in too much trouble. And it's kind of like, you go to college, you get a job, you get married, and you get the white picket fence. So it's just kind of more of that. At the time, I didn't realize I was going through the motions, but I guess in a way I was going through the motions of just, here's what's next. Here's what, you graduate college, you get a job. So that's just kind of where it was for me. There was no passion. There was no excitement. It was just like, here's the next step.
Yeah, knowing the little bit about you from when we talked and about your story, it does feel like not, I don't know, like it feels like you would want that excitement. But I understand that like going through the
Yeah, I mean, I
motions.
got a lot of excitement after once my career, once I got into my own things and
Right.
being
Exactly.
an entrepreneur. But at that
Yeah.
time, it was just like, it literally was like, okay, P&G is a good company. I should go work for them. That was really my thought process. But I also knew that I couldn't be corporate after a little while, because after about a year and a half with Procter & Gamble, they offered me a promotion, and it was in Alabama. And I was kind of like, okay. Now, I knew a friend of mine from down south, and he was like, oh, the Alabama, they're not going to like a northern boy like you down there. And I went, I went to my mentor in Procter & Gamble, and I was like, okay, I'm being sent to Alabama. He's like, this is a great opportunity. You'll get promoted fast. And I knew I couldn't turn it down because you just can't do that. But I was kind of like, I don't really want to move to Alabama. I'm like, what do I do? He's like, you go down there, you do really well, and then you get promoted someplace else. And I'm like, where would that be? And he says, well, it could be wherever the company needs you. And finally, I was like, so what's my final goal out of all this? It's like to get to Cincinnati, of course, which is where Procter & Gamble's headquarters is. So I'm literally like, holy shit, like my whole life is going to be dictated by this company, where I'm going to work, when I'm going to live there. I could be sent to Europe. And it's just like, if they offer you a promotion, you got to keep taking it if you want to keep moving. So that's when I was like, I got to get off this train. And I quit Procter & Gamble and then went to get my MBA. And then I realized after the first year, it was just corporate again. It was like Procter & Gamble was recruiting me for a different position, and ExxonMobil, whoever. And I was like, wow, I'm just going, if I stay in this path, I'm always going to be in a corporate where a corporation is always going to tell me how my life is going to go.
It's interesting that you went for an MBA thinking you needed a change. And you're right. Once you get there, can be a change, but it's going to be a change in the same
the same
beast.
realm. Yes, the same realm. And I said, what really got me was like when Procter & Gamble came back and was like, oh, we want you for this position now. And I was like, what am I doing? This is
Going back to
I don't know.
the same.
Yeah. Like I'm just back on the treadmill, running. And I just,
Until you got to Cincinnati.
until I got to Cincinnati, and that was, woohoo. So yeah, that's when I knew I better make a change.
So how did you actually approach that? Because if you know you don't want corporate,
Mhm.
I guess you knew you had to do
I mean, I kind of fell
something
into
different.
it because my mother owned a restaurant. So I was working there part-time for money just while I was getting my MBA. And it was kind of like, yeah, but I guess I'll do this for now. And I worked for her for a number of years and then started opening my own places, and then just started branching out into different fields and just trying different things. And some successful, some not so successful. But overall, it's been a great journey.
Did you work with your mom for a long time, or did you quickly go?
No, I did for a good few years, probably about close maybe 8-9 years.
That's a long time.
Yeah, it is a long time. And it's very difficult to work for a parent, especially my mother was a tough woman. She had to be, because she was, she started, yeah, she opened her own Irish pub back in the 1970s. So she had to be, a strong, tough, take no shit kind of woman.
I love that.
Yeah. So she definitely, if you worked for her, you could work for anybody type thing. Because she was no nonsense. She was tough. So yeah, every other restaurant loved trying to steal people from her because they knew they were well trained and they could do a good job. But yeah, it did get to a stage of like, all right, this is going to probably really ruin our dynamics if we stay working together, because we definitely had very different ways of handling people and doing things. So yeah, I eventually got my own place and then kind of went off from there.
And it's not just working with family; it's also working with family in a very, very high pressure type of environment and industry.
Yeah, it's a lot of hours. It's weekends, it's nights, it's you're dealing with people who are drinking. There's men and women fighting over each other, or can be somewhat violent at times. You deal with drunk people.
Drunk people and idiots. Yes.
Yeah, exactly.
And so you went ahead and started your own thing. I would really like you to tell me the story of it, because you were working with your mom for a long time and wanted to get your new place. Why was it? Was it mostly because you wanted that independence, or did you want to change? And then how did you go about it?
Yeah, it was a little of both. I mean, I was still working for her when I actually opened my first place. That was on my own type thing. So I kind of kept both feet in the door. And then it just got to a stage that's not going to it just wasn't working with us too. So then I wound up opening another place. And then they were all out in Queens and New York. And then I went into the city. That's when I started really blowing up. So I opened a small Irish pub in the city. And then from there, I wound up opening this really big nightclub down on the Lower East Side, like big 3-story, all celebrity, all crazy antics. It was a wild time. I'm glad I did it, and I'm glad I got out of it, because I'd probably be dead if I stayed in that business. Because nightclubs don't get really busy till 11, 12 o'clock at night.
Yeah.
So you're really, you're going from 11 to 4 in the morning. By the time you get everybody out, it's at least 5 before you count the money, you do everything like that. And then a lot of times we'd have the celebrities, a lot of times you can't say no to them. So they'd want to hang out after hours. So you're with them till 5, 6 o'clock in the morning before you get out. So it was a very, I'm getting home 7 to 8 o'clock in the morning sometimes. It was a wild experience, but it was, again, I'm glad I did it, because I met so many interesting people, and it kind of then led me to different other career paths after that. I got into different types of businesses, like event production, and eventually into working in technology startups. It kind of like depends. I didn't certainly have a plan that, oh yeah, I'm going to be in tech startups one day, but it just kind of one breadcrumb, we just keep picking up and bringing me different places.
And I love that. That's why I love doing this podcast, because I realize how much we don't see until we're kind of looking in hindsight how things connect.
Yeah,
and you're just going down a path, but then you have no fucking clue what's going to happen.
No clue. I mean, I guess if you stay in the corporate world, you can.
Yeah.
Right? You can kind of be like, okay, I want to be vice president of so and such and such one day, or you can kind of like plan it out, right? I mean,
which is why I don't have that many corporate people on my show.
But right, it's true though. If you work, it's kind of like a lot of who you are, right? If you're a person who likes stability and knows what's coming next, which there's nothing wrong with, then we
need those people too.
Yeah, it's great, and that's what they're there for. But me, I'm all over the place. I get bored easily, and I need to be always doing something different. The restaurants and bars and nightclubs, that certainly provided that on a daily basis. And then when you go into the startup world, I mean, you know how that is. I mean, one day you're the accountant, the next day you're the marketer, the next day you're head of, you're doing head of HR, you're doing,
all the things.
All the things. So I find that exciting.
I want to talk about the difference between the bar and restaurant scene, and particularly technology startups, because I think that's probably, I'm sure there's lessons that translate, but it's also very different in many ways. But first, I want to talk about your club, because you started that club when the Lower East Side was not the Lower East Side. I mean, it was the Lower East Side, but it wasn't what it is today.
Yeah, no, the Lower East Side back then was, a lot of burned out buildings and a lot of factories. The building that I actually took over was a burned down building that was just, pigeons were living in there. Pigeons and rats are basically the tenants. So I went down there, and the community board to this day still hates me. Because,
that's how you know you did a good job.
Yeah, I guess so. No, to this day, I think they still shudder when they hear my name, because they blame me for kind of gentrifying the area, which it was coming no matter what. That area had a lot of big factory type buildings, which lends itself to hotels and nightclubs. So I just happened to be like, in every other place down there before me, there was a few music places, and there was a lot of dive bars. That's what the Lower East Side was, just dive bars and some music venues. That was the nightlife down there. And then I came in and I opened this huge 3-story club with lines down the block and celebrities coming in. And they would bring me down to community board meetings, and just because they assumed I was opening an Irish bar, because that's what my history had been. So when I went in front of the board to ask for my liquor license, it was kind of like they knew my history of Irish pubs. And they're like, oh, this guy's going to open an Irish pub. And all of a sudden I came in and did this huge nightclub. But certain days it'd be like police outside, keeping the crowd under control. And then right after me, within a year or so, just hotels and clubs, and it just really changed around. And then they, of course, blame me for increasing rents and all the gentrification things that followed. I was first, so I had to blame somebody, right?
Yeah. What made you think, was it mostly just because of the space lent itself for that? Because again, it's like, if you're the first, there's something that has to have.
Yeah, you know what? It's definitely the space. It was something that it was burned out, so I could afford it. And I was able to get construction loans from the banks at the time. And it definitely was something it was a very edgy neighborhood. And, a friend of mine, he was a police officer. And back in, a few years before me, he's like, all I deal with down there is drug addicts and prostitutes. What are you doing? Like, what is happening? And he was even told me a friend of his, who's also a cop, bought a building, and every night he had to sleep in it with his gun to make sure that people didn't break in, while he was renovating it and stuff. So he was just like, you're out of your mind. But to me, it was like, it had that personality to the area. And I definitely thought it was going to be up and coming. So I took a chance and, rolled the dice, and it worked out.
That's I think, little bit of crazy that you have to have if you're going to have, if you're going to do something like that.
I think almost every entrepreneur has to have a little bit of crazy, right? Yeah. You could lose everything. I mean, you don't know when you open something that it's going to work. No matter what business it is, you can't be guaranteed that it's going to happen. Even like the last tech startup I was with, that should have been $1 billion company, but we just couldn't get our Series A. And, we got acquired, which is a win, but you don't know. You're always taking a chance, right? It could have been nothing, or it could have been $1 billion. It wasn't either one of those, but you just have no idea.
But it could have,
It could have.
like you're taking that risk, and that's the whole point. I
don't know too many entrepreneurial things you could do that don't involve risk.
I don't think there are any.
Yeah.
All of them.
So you either got to be crazy, stupid, or both. And I think I'm a little of both sometimes.
I think you have to be crazy and actually smart if you're going to do it right, to be honest.
Well, I mean, stupid in a way of like, sometimes you just ignore the high risks.
That is true. You have to have, I laugh because since I teach entrepreneurship, I'm not teaching it this semester, but I do, all the theoretical words come in. I'm like, you have to have an internal locus of control. And doesn't matter. You have to be nuts. That's basically it.
And you just have to go for it sometimes. And sometimes they don't work. I've started things that crashed and burned, and you just got to be able to pick your pants up and,
Can you tell me about one of those?
Sure. I started a CBD company. So I had connection, somebody was going to help me out there, and it was great timing. We called it Wisdom Essentials, and my college roommate came in with me on it. So we partnered up. We put together a great brand. We had everything good. But then right as we were going to launch, COVID hit, and that kind of just put the brakes on everything. So our website was 6 months delayed being done, but you're still paying money for things. So then by the time COVID ended and we started getting going, kind of CBD kind of lost its luster. People got more into doing, if they're going to do cannabis, they're going to do the whole cannabis and not just the CBD portion of it. There's a few companies out there still doing okay in CBD, but I don't think the market just kind of collapsed. So just, we did it for a few years, and at the end of it, just had to kind of turn off the lights and walk away. So that was a pretty recent one, pretty big one. I've had places I've opened up, and I don't think I've ever opened like a restaurant or bar that was exactly how I envisioned it.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, I find you go in and the place kind of tells you what it has to become, if that makes any sense. You have your vision, but maybe my vision's just not that great or whatever it is, but I go in and most times I wind up changing. Maybe I open as a regular bar and then I realize, shit, I should be a craft beer bar. And then I'll make it a craft beer bar and that'll be wildly successful. I don't like karaoke. Personally, I didn't like it at all. I opened the place, Cornerstone Tavern, and this Scottish bartender of mine convinced me, he loved karaoke. He's like, please let me do a night, whatever. Now we do 7 nights a week, or now we did 7 nights a week because people wanted it, and it became very, very successful. And it brought business in, we don't start till 10, 11 o'clock at night. So it brought that late night crowd in. So I never would have, not in a million years if somebody said to me, you're going to have a place that does karaoke, I'd have been not a chance. And next thing you know, I was doing it 7 nights a week.
That is, thinking of parallels, that's just pivoting, right? You're listening to what people want, and then you pivot towards that. At the end of the day, you're not necessarily your customer.
No.
Right?
No, I think people who get stubborn or think this is my vision and this is what it's going to be, they're either really lucky if it works, or they're brilliant and they just, they really saw it ahead of time.
Yeah.
I think 90% of times, or maybe more than that, entrepreneurs have to just pivot and do what needs to be done.
Yeah, follow what people are telling you.
Yeah.
But it's good, though, what I think and what you just said about people who get really stuck on their vision, because you're saying your bartender convinced you to try out the karaoke. And that I think is important, to like listen to people who might be more, in that case, probably seeing the people,
Yeah.
interacting with them day to day in a
Yeah.
way that can give you more information.
Yeah, I had a different place called the Stag's Head that I opened as an Irish bar. It was named after a bar in Dublin. And I had a manager working for me, and she convinced me to go craft beer. And it was really early in the craft beer stage. And I was kind of like, what? I'm like, she's like, no Guinness, no Bud. And I'm like, that's sacrilege. How can I have no Guinness?
Sounds.
And I was just like, how about we do half and half? And she was like, no, it has to be, if you're going to go craft beer bar, it has to be a craft beer bar. And she was right. It turned out to be, we got right in the movement when craft beer was taken off, and it was very successful for many years. And if I'd left it as an Irish bar, it probably would have been just an also ran so place.
Like just another Irish bar.
Yeah, just
again,
place.
Smart of you to actually listen to people. Like you can't be stuck in your little own echo chamber.
I think no matter how smart I think I might be, there other people are smarter, and or at least maybe have better ideas, and you got to listen to them.
I used to say that my job was to hire people that were smarter than me.
I always said that. If I'm working for a company, I'll always say, if I'm the smartest person in the room, I'm in the wrong room.
Yeah, I mean, why wouldn't you want that?
Oh yeah.
I think a lot of it is ego for some people, but
it is, and it's silly because I always try and hire people that are better at what I'm not necessarily great at. Like, I don't love being a front person. Like when you open like a nightclub or a bar, you want that owner who's like, hey, and blah blah blah.
That wasn't you.
That's not me. But I would always hire somebody who was. So
right.
so fine, I could be like more I'll run the business things and I'll be there. Now I have my person who loves being the front person, and they enjoy that. So you always got to find what your weakest parts are. And everybody says, they're into the bar business because they want to be that, like, hey, I'm the guy. And I actually was kind of more the opposite. If you surround yourself with people who like doing what you don't like to do, or are better at doing what you can't do, you have a better chance of success.
100%. That's the pairing. I used to, in my old company, I was the COO and the CEO, and I would always say, I'm a good COO for her. I don't necessarily know that I'm going to be a good COO for someone else, because the point is to kind of balance that.
Right. The last startup I was with, I went in and it was a video imaging company. And it was mainly working with influencers and people who do a lot of videos and wanted to edit them with AI and that kind of stuff.
Is that how you got there?
Yes.
Okay. I'm like trying to see the
yes.
You said
yes.
club celebrities.
Yes. So I kind of went in for that. And within a short period of time, it was kind of a thing of like, I don't know if this is really going to have a life on it. I think AI is just going to become so good that they're not going to need it. And a few months later, we totally pivoted and changed the whole company to working for brands and agencies. And then I wound up being COO because I had the most business experience. And they were the scrappy startup, really smart people, super smart, really good people to be around. But the business was like all over the place. They didn't like do their books, basically. And I would always say to them, if you don't know your numbers, you have a hobby, not a business. And yes. So I never thought I'd be like the COO type, but then I kind of fell into that role in that company just because it needed the structure.
And you were the right fit for it because what they needed was exactly the experience that you had.
Right.
In the bar scene and restaurant or more nightclub scene, you said they're usually the people who end up going that route are the ones that want to be like that front person. Mm-hmm. When you said that, I had this reaction of feeling that maybe wanting that and wanting to be that usually makes you a little weaker in the fundamentals. I don't know. I guess you have to partner with someone.
Right. I mean, yeah. So the people who are like that need people like me.
Yeah.
Or vice versa. Because I'm good at the business. I'm good at, I'll hire, I'll fire, I'll do all those things. I'll make the structure, because it's a lot easier to run a business when employees know what you're expected of them, and they have written manuals, and there's training, and there's, all the things that go along with that. So I'm very good at being organized and structured in business. But again, I don't love the whole, look at me.
So you are the COO type.
Yeah, I guess, yes, I'm very structured, but I can also be part of this chaos that's in the bar business. So it's not like I'm like sitting in the office all day. I'm definitely out on the floor. I'm definitely doing things. But I didn't think I would actually be like a full-on COO. That's my job every day. But when they asked me to take on the role, I told them I'd give them 1 year. So I did about 9 months before we got acquired. And so I was like, I can't do this for more than a year because it's just.
But I think that you said it at the beginning. I do think that there's an aspect of startups with there is an organized chaos, or maybe not even organized. There is
Yeah.
a little bit of chaos that is maybe a little reminiscent of kind of that more restaurant industry chaos.
Yeah. I mean, startups are chaos. They are. I mean, especially when you're pivoting and trying to figure out what the market wants, and you go in with a thought, and no matter what that thought is, especially in tech, I think your customers are going to tell you really fast whether you got a product or not. So you got to be. It's just very chaotic. But I said, so they had all the chaos going on, but the only way to scale is then you have to have the structure.
So tell me a little bit about the journey, because we jumped around, and you, I know, said something around event production in between here, these two big ones. So I want to go back and kind of see if you can tell me a little bit about that.
Sure. So from the nightclub business, you get to know a lot of
How long were you? Did you have that nightclub?
It was to me almost 2 years to build the building.
Which makes sense.
It was a 4-story building, and
makes sense.
By the time you get the brand financing, and so maybe a year and a half, a little more than a year and a half. I actually ran it. I was in there running it for a little over 2 years, and I said it was an amazing 2 years, but it wasn't for me long term. So when I was getting out of that, these guys I knew had an event production company doing all the film festivals, Tribeca, Sundance, Toronto, Cannes, and they did a lot of the fashion shows. So we knew a lot of the, actors, agents, and people like that. So we then would do all the parties for the movie premieres. So we'd have all the celebrities come in, and we'd set up we'd take over some kind of a venue, and we'd provide, DJ or band or both. We'd set up the food, the alcohol. So it's a lot of, so you're doing a lot of trade and trying to get sponsors. So you want a liquor sponsor. So their liquor will be there, and they'll give you, because celebrities never pay anything for anything. They don't ever, no matter how much money a celebrity has, they don't pay for anything. So you have to get everything for free, and then get sponsors to come in. And what the sponsors do is, the celebrity would maybe get a picture with them holding that beer bottle, or the step and repeat, that have the logos up. So that's actually a pretty big business, but it's also a hard business because you're constantly hitting up brands, trying to get these sponsors.
It's a lot of sales.
It's a lot of sales. Yeah, it's a lot of, and like typical, the brand that spends $10,000 as a sponsorship causes you 1,000,000 times more headaches than the brand who gives you 100,000. It's just.
I remember that.
So it's the ones who, I guess the 10,000 means more to them or something. I don't know, because they're smaller, that they just demand so much more. And the brands that come in with big money, they're just just make sure we get this X, Y, and Z. So it's an interesting business. So I did that for 5 years. But in the meantime, I opened another couple of restaurants and bars.
So you were still doing
that. Yeah. I said, I have to keep moving. It's just that it's that itch. That's why I couldn't be corporate, because I couldn't just do one job. I have to have side projects.
Is that always been the case? After corporate, even when you were with the startup recently, were you still doing other things? I know you still are an investor in restaurants.
And I advise. I still invest in some restaurants. Believe it or not, I might be investing one in Las Vegas pretty soon.
Have you ever done outside of New York?
No.
So this would be the first time?
This would be the first time. It's a whole other long story about how it happened, but it kind of fell into my lap. And I know somebody who used to work for me actually in the nightclub, he actually was the front person, who was the person who liked being the front person. He happens to live in Vegas. And I know that he wanted to get back into this business. So I knew somebody that wants out. So I kind of, at first, I just kind of put everybody together. And because my big fat mouth, I'm right in the middle of it. It looks like I'll be opening a place in Vegas in the next couple of months. So
that's awesome.
We'll take one over. Yeah, is it though? Is it? I don't know.
Why? Tell me why. Tell me why is it though?
Yeah, because I kind of thought I got out of the bar business, really. And even though I really want to be working there on a daily basis, it's still, I don't know. My days of dealing with, a drunk 25-year-old, is over for me. It's just, for me, a lot of it is been there, done that so much.
Mm.
If it wasn't for, a friend of mine who lives there, and I kind of started the whole thing, and it's actually my brother-in-law who wants to get out of it. So now I'm kind of like in the middle, and I'm like, okay, I guess I'm doing this. So I'm not excited about it. Let's put it that way. I'm going to do it. It'll be fine, but I'm not excited.
When was the last time you felt really excited about opening something?
But I did the last tech startup, One Click. That was a lot of fun. Yeah, that was really, it was a smart crew doing interesting things and working with AI. I think AI is moving, we all know is moving so fast, and people more my age are all afraid of it. It's like this, I don't want to do AI. I don't want to know anything about it. And I'm just like, that's just like saying in, 1998, I don't want this internet thing, like it. So I'm glad I did it. So now I'm very, I'm not going to say I'm an expert in AI, but I know the business of AI very well. My hands are in it. I know what's going on. I'm not afraid of AI. So I think that's different for people around my age, is to know that you can't put your head in the ground. It's coming, whether you like it or not, and you should stay on top of it.
Yeah, I was going to ask you about this because I remember when we talked, you said that people still do ask you about AI adoption. And I just started. I did it last week, the first workshop, but I'm doing kind of some work in that space of like, how do you get people who are very reticent and like, I don't want to deal with this, it's going to take away the humanity, all these things. How do you get them to open their mind a little bit?
Yeah, it's hard because people are afraid. And again, I always use that line, like in 1998, did you not say you're going to use a World Wide Web thing? And I also try and tell people, like, listen, AI is not going to replace all the jobs. AI is going to replace the jobs of the people who don't know how to use AI. And sometimes I get people like the light bulb kind of like, and I'm like, I'm serious. If you don't know how to use AI, you're going to get run over.
Yeah.
Unless you're doing like, if you're a plumber right now, until the robots come and take over. But if you have skilled labor, electrical, plumbing, things like that, at least for the next few years, that's safe. But I think anything to do with numbers or writing or just anything else, AI is, you either better know how to use it and how to make yourself more productive that way, or you're obsolete in a year from now.
It is scary. I mean, I deal with people who also look at all like ethical concerns and environmental concerns and all these things. And I get that. But the world is going to keep moving, right?
Yeah, we're not going back to the horse. Whether the way I look at it is it doesn't matter how I feel about it. It's coming whether I feel it this way or not. I'd rather be in it and on it than watching it run past me and not know what's happening.
The way I've started to think about it with people who particularly ethical concerns around it, because I've been working with nonprofits in this space, and a lot of it is that, like ethical concerns is, I heard this in a podcast. I think it was like an evolutionary biologist saying it. He was talking with some tech people, and they were saying AI has an immense capacity for good, right? Mm-hmm. And an immense capacity for evil or bad, or however you wanted to say it. Yeah. And so
just like humans, right?
Just like humans, exactly. And so if you are concerned about it, then maybe it's better that the people who are concerned about the ethics, the people that are concerned about doing things in a way that will be good for humanity, maybe it's better that you're the ones on those trains, right?
I agree 1,000,000%. You can't sit there and complain about something that you don't know about, don't get yourself involved in. You sit in the sideline, I don't like how, you're not helping.
No.
If you're in there, the more ethical, strong people we can get into AI and on it, the better the odds are that the train will stay on track.
Right. Hopefully. Or at least we can try.
At least we can try.
At this
we
point.
can do our best. Yes. We can. I think I said it, right? We just have to give our best. But yes, I agree with you 100%. You need good people need to be in on this and know what they're talking about so that they can have informed opinions on what comes next.
Yeah. Okay, that was our little AI went down. But it's true. And I agree with this. And it's going to affect every single business and every single industry. Eventually, like you said, right now, maybe not electricians and plumbers, but wait till the robots are here.
Yeah.
Who knows? But it will.
I'm convinced within 5-6 years, robots will be cleaning the house and making the beds and doing all those things. Now, that could be a great thing if people then could do a higher purpose and don't have to worry about menial repetitive tasks. And hopefully that brings people to a higher plane
The purpose thing is difficult because as humans, we kind of need that, right? We need meaning, we need purpose, we need wanting to do something. And if jobs, and a lot of us, not saying this is correct, but a lot of us get that from work. Although I've been trying to separate myself from that, but hard. So then if AI is taking a little bit more of those jobs, you're going to have to find that.
Well, hopefully then we get
Hopefully.
more creative, right? Or we
Hopefully.
do. So that's what I'm saying. Hopefully we as people, instead of having to, now I got to clean my apartment today, I clean my
Yeah.
house. Hopefully then I now have time to do, you know what? I want to paint. I want to know how to paint. I want to learn how to play guitar. Or hopefully it
Yeah.
frees us up that we can do higher purpose things. At least that's my hope.
Yeah. I agree. I hope so too. Going back to your story, I alluded to this question at the beginning and we kind of talked about it high level of how restaurant industry, nightclub industry, which I'm just fascinated by because I don't talk to a lot of people who are entrepreneurs, but in more of a brick and mortar situation. I tend to talk to much more tech entrepreneurs. And I would love to hear maybe a story or something where you could see either the parallels with your experience in the tech world or how knowledge or experience or a story from your restaurant industry days helped you with that transferable skills in a way. Because I think a lot of the people, especially now, I've been talking to a lot of people who are looking for jobs, for example. And what I hear a lot is right now, if you don't say that you did the exact same thing that you are applying to do, it's very hard because people don't see those transferable skills. So I'm like trying to get to that.
Right. I mean, at the end of the day, a business, right?
Right.
So restaurants have to run on numbers. You have to know, and there's a million numbers to know, right? Like your labor costs, your food costs, your alcohol costs, your rent, your insurance, I can go on, you can go on and on with the whole P&L, advertising, computers, everything you're buying, right? So at the end of the day, it's still a business that comes down to numbers. And I'm a big stickler on, again, you got to not just know your numbers, but you have to know where they come from, how they developed. It's one thing to say, oh, my liquor cost is 20%. Maybe is beer at 30 and something's at 10. You got to break it down into to the least common denominator to find out, oh, there's a problem here that I didn't even know I had until I drill down. So I think, that's, no matter what business you're in, it's still a business. People skills are very much required in a restaurant because you have to deal with all the customers. And more importantly, the people that are working for you, how you treat them, how you train them, what your limits are in terms of firing somebody or giving people second chances or third chances. So at the end of the day, people are people, no matter what business you're in. And I actually find that somebody who's even bartended or been a server, even for 6 months in a restaurant, knows how to deal with people way better than just saying in the corporate capacity. Because you see people at their best, you see them at their worst, and you see such a high volume with people that you kind of get your people senses up quicker. So I recommend everybody, when you're young, work for someone in a restaurant or bar, you'll learn so much,
I agree with that.
about people. It's a lot of multitasking, right? There's nothing linear going on in a restaurant. You're dealing with the lighting, the music, is that guy, hitting on that girl and she doesn't want him to do that. When do you intervene? When do you not intervene? How's the food? How's the drink? How's the temperature? So there's a lot of moving parts, which is just about especially startup, right? Every startup is just a million moving parts. So I really think it's the people skills, the business skills, and knowing how to work in chaos are the three main things that probably help me in startups. I think those are probably the biggest three skill sets.
The people skills is underrated, I think. I agree with you with the business is business regardless, and you need to know those fundamentals and you need to know those numbers. I think people don't think about the people skills enough.
I agree 100%. I think people, even this, when I went into this company, they never fired anybody. And there was a couple of dead weights. I talked to the founders a couple of times and I was just like, you have to have standards, right? Because otherwise, if somebody's slacking off and not doing their job, that does not motivate everybody else to do their job.
Yes.
So that's why I was saying to them a lot, and they got it. And and the first was like, how do we fire somebody? Can you teach us? And I went through like kind of a, we role played firing somebody.
And it sucks, but
it sucks. And and the worst thing is, and when you first fire somebody or when you first start doing it, a lot of times people can talk you into keeping them on.
I could see
Really?
that. I could see that.
Oh yeah.
I could see that.
I remember the first time I had to fire somebody. I mean, yeah, she totally convinced me like she would, and she was terrible. And I let her stay on, and then like that was bad for the rest of the morale because the rest of the staff was like, why'd he keep, but I was young and I was maybe 16, 17, working. Yeah.
Very young.
But like I said, it's a hard skill. And I've seen it where people are like, oh, give me another chance and whatever.
Yeah.
I think whenever you make up your mind and you've given them the chances, I don't think you just go up to somebody and be like, you're not doing a good job, you're out. You have to have those conversations beforehand. Here's what I expect from you. Here's what you should be doing. By next week, I need to see this, whatever it is done. Once you do those chances and they still can't perform, then you have to. And I think that's critical, especially in a startup, but I think it's critical no matter what stage you're at, because it definitely ruins people's enthusiasm to keep working there. If they say, John doesn't have to do it, but I'm supposed to work harder. No, like I'll slack off too then.
Yeah.
So
I had some of that in my old role, in my old job. I remember that. Not me, but like I remember people feeling a certain way about one person who got away with a lot.
And it ruins it, right? It ruins that cohesion. You might like almost everything else with the job, but that just gnaws at you, and it just kind of ruins it. So yeah, so I think in a startup, you want to start that right off the bat. You have to, high achievers who know what they need to do, and you give them the tools to do it and expect those results. And if somebody doesn't, you got to part ways. Otherwise, it just ruins the culture, I think.
It's the whole hire slow, fire fast. I can't remember who it was that said that, but
yes.
Hire slow, fire fast.
Yeah. As long as you give people the right chances and they know what's expected of them,
that clarity is very important.
Right. And I've also had people where they just weren't right for that job, but I've been able to place them in another role that they did great at. So sometimes it's not really their fault either. You got to try and find that fit. But if you can't, then you got to fire. You got to move on.
Yeah, you have to set them up for success, or if not, then what?
And I think too many people talk about that and don't live that.
That's true. And as I were talking about this, it made me think about how we were talking about AI. People skills are actually going to be one of the things that we're going to need.
100%.
Right? Like
yeah.
If the machines are going to be doing all this, like more numbers, right? Like
I said, ultimately we took a lot of the manual work out of consumer insights. So our pitch was always like, our AI could take care of all this manual grunt work that nobody likes to do. So you can work on your creatives, and you can work on a higher skill set thing, because the AI is, at least not for a while, is not going to be creative. It should do a lot of the grunt. You should use it to do a lot of the grunt work, and then it should leave us to be more creative. That's ideally, anyway.
What's one chapter of your life that people don't usually ask you about?
I guess nobody really cares about how you were as a teenager, right?
No, I guess not. I mean, I asked you about what you wanted to be when you were growing up. Right. How were you as a teenager?
I was pretty, I would say, not nondescript, kind of. I was dorky and rather shy. I would never have done something like this, or if I did, I'd be a bright red face the whole time because I'd be so nervous and embarrassed.
Honestly, I wouldn't have done something like this when I was a teenager.
But I mean, I was very shy. I mean,
Same.
I was very shy, got embarrassed very easily, was not outgoing. I had to kind of make a college made me get outgoing, and I faked confidence until I got confidence. Yeah, I literally like would just take a few deep breaths before I walked into a room, and I would like push my chest out, my head up, and I'm going to walk into this room with a big smile and super confident, and I would just do that, even though I wasn't feeling confident, or anything. And then after a while, once you kind of fake yourself into getting used to it, and then people react to you when you walk in confident. So then I became more confident because I was getting the good feedback up by acting confident.
I can see that.
You walk in and you look confident and you pretend you're confident. And for me, it was just my chest out, head up. That was my physical. You hit something physical.
Power pose.
Yeah, but it made me like, okay, so at least I think you need to do something physical to make your brain also change. So I kind of just forced myself to become social and be able to talk in front of people and be able to meet strangers. But by nature, I'm still, like, my wife would be like, once you get to know Denis, he'll talk to you, forever. But I'm not like the guy who walks into the room and and I'm all over the place.
Again, you were not the person who wanted to be the front man of the
Yeah.
bar. And yet you still have ended up with, the history of your mom, but like you did end up going into a route where you still have to be very much around people.
Oh yeah. No, I mean, yeah, it's the way it worked out. But even when I was very shy young, I worked in the restaurant, but you don't have to really, it's a kind of a hello and what are you having today? And it's a lot of kind of run and gun conversations in a restaurant and a bar. So I didn't have to get deep with anybody.
Yeah.
So at least strangers I didn't. Hey, how's it going? Good to see you again. It was easy to fake that, kind of like, not fake it, but just be, hi, where I wouldn't be able to walk up to somebody and just be like, and get into like a whole big conversation off the bat kind of thing.
It's interesting. I remember when my old job, we did a lot of events, and I'm an introvert. And I would always feel like when I was at those events, I was less of an introvert, not because I was out like talking to people, but because I was part of the organization that was putting on the event, people were coming to me.
Exactly.
And I feel like that's kind of the same.
Exactly. Even when I did it in restaurants, everybody wants to talk to the owner, right?
Right.
In event production, whoever's running the event. I mean, I would even have like celebrities walk up to me, be like, oh, I hear you're running this, they'd either tell you what they wanted or they might be like, yeah, sometimes, they were assholes. Other times they were just really nice. You did a great job, love this, thanks so much, whatever. So yeah, I was always in a position where people sought me out.
Yeah.
That's
the secret.
Yes, it really is. Yeah, that's a good point. I didn't even think about that, but yes.
Yeah. I would always joke that, I ran a networking group. I was an introvert and most of my team were introverts. And I think that that's why we were good. We had the like extroverts like you that were like you had that person who was, but then everyone else was kind of just making things happen and people would come to everyone.
Because even like with this last tech company, we had to go to an event and we had to try and get people over to our table. Oh, shoot me now. Like, and my old college roommate, actually, I brought him in with this company also. And he can talk to anybody and he's awesome. And he'll walk up to any stranger and be just like, hey, how's it going? Blah, blah, blah. Hey, I want to show you what we're doing over here. No, I'm not doing this. Like, no, I will never do this again. I will never come to one of these events. Like, I'm the one, you can come to me and ask me to come over, but I'm not going to be walking up to strangers. They're mid-conversation. Excuse me. I want to introduce you to this company, not me at all.
Yeah, same. Yeah. Denis, it's been so good talking to you. And I know we're out of time. I'm going to ask you my last question, which is always my last question. If you could go back and tell yourself something, and I will say, because, when I asked you about what chapter of your life people don't talk about, when you were a teenager, what would you tell yourself?
I would have given myself the advice I said to you, just to do it a lot earlier. Like, why was I so afraid to talk to anybody? Talking to a girl, forget it. That was just like, no way. As a kid or a teenager, I couldn't do that. So I wish, and I look back and I'm like, what was I so afraid of? Yeah. They're just people just like me. And I wish I had known to maybe value myself a little more or have a little more of that self-worth that I didn't have, and that it's going to be too long to get there. Or at least I wish it had been earlier. That's good advice. I feel that way too. That's good advice. Well, thank you. No problem. Thank you. That's it for today. Thanks for listening. If you liked this episode, hit follow or subscribe so you don't miss the next one. And if it made you think, feel something, or yell "same" out loud, leave a quick rating or review. It really helps. If you didn't like it, just pretend this never happened. You can also subscribe on Substack for updates and extras. I'd love to hear from you. Come say hi on Instagram at quitmyjobpod or email me at quitmyjobpod@gmail.com. See you next time.